park planner with Montgomery County Department of Parks. I'm here to talk with you about a planned project we have at East Norbeck Local Park. We're proposing to convert 2 shared tennis/pickleball courts to 6 dedicated pickleball courts. So I'm going to walk you through the project and the project schedule and the outreach that we've done so far on this project. If you're not familiar with pickleball, pickleball is a racket sport. It's like a cross between tennis and ping pong and a little bit of badminton. Maybe the court is the size of a badminton court. It's a sport for all ages. It's easy to learn, it's low impact, and it's very social, much more social than tennis. It's rapidly growing. In fact, for the past 3 years, it's been the fastest growing sport in the US and in Montgomery County. And over the last couple of years, Montgomery Parks has delivered 90 pickleball courts to the pickleball players, the pickleball community, but only 8 of those are dedicated courts. The rest are shared with tennis. And the link here at the bottom is a link to a landing page where we share all information about all things pickleball in Montgomery Parks, including this project. So something for you to note if you're interested in learning more about pickleball and other places to play. The project at East Norbeck would establish a second countywide hub. We have one at Bauer Drive Local Park in Aspen Hill, near Bauer Drive and 28 and the Rock Creek Village Shopping Center. And we're proposing to do a similar project at East Norbeck that we did at Bauer. And what we did is we converted both tennis courts to 6 dedicated pickleball courts. And that photo on the slide is Bauer Drive from earlier this year. Why dedicated pickleball hub? Dedicated pickleball courts offer guaranteed play opportunities for pickleball players. Shared courts with tennis do not. So, a lot of pickleball players will drive a long distance for a high quality pickleball experience. But what they want when they get there is guaranteed play. In other words, they don't want to have to compete with other players, specifically tennis players. So it reduces conflicts with tennis players who might, tennis players might be using the court and pickleball players are coming to play on a shared court, or vice versa. So having a pickleball hub with just pickleball courts reduces the conflict with tennis players. And it ensures the use can be appropriately accommodated. That's another way of saying guaranteed play. It offers a gathering space for pickleball players. As I said, pickleball is a very social sport. At Bauer Drive on any given weekend day with nice weather, you'll see 30 to 40 pickleball players at the court. All the courts are full and there's 10 or 15 people waiting to play. And it's very social. People rotate in and out of games depending on their skill level and who they want to play with. It offers opportunities for very casual play, which is what happens at Bauer Drive, but it also can be pretty competitive. The higher level play, players play pretty competitively, although none of the courts in Montgomery Parks are used for tournaments. We don't allow pickleball players yet to reserve court time, but eventually we'll get to that, but we're just not there yet. We just don't have enough courts. And of course, pickleball courts, dedicated courts, offer an opportunity for practice and learning. You might be asking why East Norbeck Local Park. So both tennis courts were striped with pickleball in 2021, and the park quickly became very popular for pickleball, in part because it's easy to get to and it has excellent lighting. The ingredients for a pickleball hub include ample parking, which East Norbeck has, access to transit, which East Norbeck has. We'd like to only put dedicated pickleball courts that are at least 300 feet from existing homes, and these tennis courts do meet that criteria. The court should be accessible for people with disabilities. The court should have good lighting, and it's ideal, not necessary, but it's ideal to have a social gathering space nearby, which East Norbeck does have with the picnic shelter. And the picnic shelter, if you reserve it, has bathrooms. Otherwise, there's porta-johns there. So this is the existing condition, and what this is showing is that both courts have the pickleball overlay. On the right, it shows how the pickleball overlay works. So there can be one game where players are using the existing tennis net, and that's usually beginners or kids who are playing. Or more experienced players or players who have the wherewithal to bring their own net can utilize the space on each side of the tennis net by bringing in their own net. The courts can be used for pickleball. So there can be either one game using the existing tennis net or two pickleball games on each side of the tennis net for each court going on at any given time. In late March, early April, earlier this year, we installed a motion detecting camera that so we could observe how the courts are used. We captured the camera was active from 7 in the morning to 11 at night. We captured over 1,200 images. There's almost daily use of the pickleball. Sometimes, as this photo shows, there's two pickleball games going on, and the other court is used for tennis. That happens on occasion, but not regularly, but it does happen. The court gets less frequent use by tennis players, but it does get some use for tennis. So the future condition is this. This is basically what Barrett Drive looks like, and I just overlaid it on an aerial photo so you could see what 6 dedicated courts at East Norbeck might look like. One of the reasons why we're picking East Norbeck for a pickleball hub is because Olney Manor Recreational Park is nearby, and it's only a 5-minute drive away, and it has 18 tennis courts, all of which are lighted. So we feel like by taking away tennis at East Norbeck, it's not an incredible burden on the community. And I'll show you why also in a minute with some data. But there's 18 courts at Olney Manor, and there are 38 within 3 miles. There's 38 public courts at public parks, and another 32 at middle schools, which would be available on weeknights and weekends. So there's lots of tennis service. We call this service. There's lots of tennis service in this area of the county. And by converting the tennis courts at East Norbeck to pickleball courts, we feel like it's not that much of a inconvenience to ask tennis players to drive a little bit further somewhere else to go play, because you'll see in the upcoming slides, most of the people who go to East Norbeck drive. So earlier this year, we presented to a number of groups to talk about this project. We talked with the Norbeck Crossing HOA Board of Directors, which is the community right next to the park on the north side of Norbeck Road. We also presented to the Greater Olney Civic Association, as well as the Mid-County Citizens Advisory Board. During all those presentations, there were very few concerns about converting the tennis courts, the 6 dedicated pickleball courts. They agreed that it wasn't a terrible inconvenience to have to go a little bit further to Olney Manor or use a different park nearby. We also had an online open town hall survey that was available for people to respond to from May 1st to June 2nd. We had 340 people visit the page, of which 267 completed the entire survey. What this is showing, this first slide, is how far do people live from the park? People who use the park, how far do you live from East Norbeck Local Park? And the majority of people, almost 75%, 74%, live either a mile to 5 miles or more than 5 miles away. Only 27% or so live within half a mile or a mile. So then we asked people, do you use the courts at East Norbeck, and what do you use it for? It's evenly split based on the respondents anyway to this survey, almost equally tennis and pickleball. And then another question we asked is, how do you get to the park? And by far, the majority of people who visit East Norbeck Local Park drive to get there. They do not bike and walk. And so that was one of our concerns, was by removing tennis at this park, we might be removing a valuable resource for tennis that a lot of people walk to, and that's not the case. If you visit the courts, use the courts at East Norbeck, how often do you use the courts? Lots of variation, but almost a third of people use it once a week or more. And the final question we asked is, do you support the conversion of the courts? And more than 2/3 of people said, yes, we do support that conversion. So this is the project timeline and the decision that our leadership made. So like I said, in May, we did a lot of public engagement. We met with groups and presented the idea, the concept, and we did a lot of broader outreach on social media in addition to the open town hall survey. In June, after the survey closed, we made a recommendation to our parks leadership, and they agreed based on everything that we told them that we had heard from the community and what we learned from the online survey, that yes, we will go forward with converting both tennis courts to 6 pickleball courts. This work will happen either this fall or next spring. The implementation depends on a contractor that we are working with, when they might be available to do the work. So it's not yet determined. It could be fall, it could be spring. I actually don't know yet. So this is my contact information, my email address and my telephone number. If you want to reach me about this project, ask any questions, or if you have any comments, I'm always happy to talk about this. And then at the bottom is a link to the project page. So feel free to, check out the progress of the project over the next couple months. We'll put updates on that page about when the work will be done and when the work is actually done. We'll post a sign in the park when the work is scheduled to be done, just to give people warning when the courts might be closed. The tennis courts might be closed for the project. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.